Hello and welcome to the Kaz and Daz show. Dazless again for this week, but we're having a very special 2021 WBBL Cup final preview today. So I'm Kaz Bullock and I am joined by Michael Hanson-Morris, and we're going to just talk all about the WBBL Cup final. We've got some interviews with some players, coaches. Mikey and Greg have broke down some game tape and we're going to show you that. If you want to join the broadcast, drop us a message on Twitter, on the Focus Hoops Twitter, drop us a DM and we'll invite you into the broadcast. We've not done this before. It might work wonderfully. It might work terribly. Who knows? But let's give it a go. Join in and send us your predictions, your thoughts, what's going to happen tomorrow during the Cup final. So, Mikey, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. It's been a good week. Enjoyed breaking down both teams' film and kind of prepping a little bit. And yeah, really looking forward to the game tomorrow. It's two top teams. And as you'll see in the interview, they both feel like they know each other despite having not seen each other in a year. And I think we'll see a really high level of standard on the floor, which is a great thing for women's basketball. And of course, it's on Sky, which is a bonus. So again, a bit of progress in the women's game back on Sky for the first time in a while. Slight hiccup, the fact that we're directly competing with netball because the first Netball Super League game starts tomorrow about 5 o'clock. But look, it's progress and that's what we want.
Absolutely. And the broadcast kicks off at 5 o'clock on the Sky Sports Arena and Sky Sports Mix. And also it should be on the Sky Sports YouTube channel for people that don't have Sky Sports. The coverage on Sky, the build-up will be done by Rhianne Bailey of the Manchester Mystics and Siobhan Pryor of the Nottingham Wildcats. So that will be a great introduction to the game, and then tip-offs at 5:30. So should we jump into it?
Why not?
Let's go. So we've got interviews with Len Bush of the Sevenoaks Suns and Jesper Sundberg for the Riders. So we will kick off, and this is what happened when Mikey spoke to Len earlier today, or yesterday, or one day this week.
One WBBL Cup final preview here with Focus Hoops, now joined by Sevenoaks head coach Len Bush ahead of the game. Len, you've had a little bit of a tricky situation in terms of not playing for 2 months. So just how has the prep building up to the cup final gone, and what's the confidence like in the group heading into tomorrow's game?
I think the run-up's been as good as we could do in the time we have. Players are working hard. Practice looks good. Obviously, there's a little bit of rust, but they're veterans. We'll come out and they'll put their best effort in, and then we'll start on our mission of continuing to get better throughout the rest of the season.
And obviously, most people are aware of obviously the decision to stop playing for a little bit and then obviously coming back tomorrow. But for those that maybe not are familiar, do you want to just briefly run through obviously what went into decision of taking the pause for really about a month, 6 weeks?
Well, you see how fast things change. All sports stopped last March, and then they figure out a way to get it started again. In our case, we were not 100% comfortable when we started, but we did. And then we started to get comfortable with it, but then cases just kind of went through the roof around Christmas time. My wife and I were both very concerned about it. We had issues around housing. We had issues with some players living with their families. We had, and it just became, we met as a group and decided that we weren't comfortable. And since that time, WBBL's instituted testing. We've further enhanced some of the protocols around, games and practices. And at the same time, we had issues with a practice facility. Like we didn't have anywhere to practice. And so that in the last 2-3 weeks, that's changed. We suddenly got back into our facility, and players sitting out just said, "Hey, we got to find a way. We want to play." It's a couple of players might be their last season, and they said, if there's any way to play, we want to play. So then we've just worked and found a way to get started. I don't know how it'll play out over the course of the season, but I'm hopeful. Games seem to be going forward, so cross your fingers.
Yeah, and obviously before the break, obviously you managed to get into the finals, so you had the way Barking had developed is a very good win over Barking. You struggled a little bit on the road in Cardiff for a long spell, and obviously Renee was exceptional from the perimeter that game, and then the semi-final against Nottingham, which was an all-time classic semi-final, but both teams back and forward, a little bit scrappy at times, but I think that experience, you just found a way to win, which you so often do.
We've never really been through all the wins, I don't know what it is in the league over the last 3 years, it might be 53-2 or something like that, but we don't win games by 30 points very often. So we just, as you say, find a way to win. So, and you don't have to win by a lot. You just have to win if you're going to. So we don't really worry about point spreads or that it was close. We know any teams tend to get up for us. They play a little better. I scout other teams and I watch them play, and I have to resist the temptation to say, oh, wow, they're not very good, or they do this poorly, because for some reason when they play us, they seem to do it a lot better. So we get the best from everybody most of the time.
And obviously Leicester, a team that are no different. You've met each other multiple times. Last year, not in a final, because you just got drawn against them early on in the competitions. But just talk about the challenges Leicester possess. Obviously, Kate's size is always a bit of an issue, and you've guarded her multiple different ways over the years. And then defensively this year, they seem to have taken it another step forward.
Yeah, they look. They seem to have the most depth that they've had. They're not really weak as far as I can see in any position. Until you play, you don't know. I mean, I watched highlights of the playoff final from 2019. Yeah. That was a great game, and there was a lot of talent in that game on both sides of the ball. And so how this plays out with Leicester, I figure we're going to meet them 3-4 more times this season. So, twice in the league. We've already, if we can get past Barking in the trophy, we'll play them in the trophy as well, semifinal. And I have no idea what will happen once players get on the floor. I know the things I worry about. I know the things that I'm preparing for. There are things that I wish that I envision doing, but I don't think we have time to get it down, but we'll continue to work on it. So, but it's a whole new mindset thinking about doing it without a real 5 player.
Yeah, and just so people are aware, Len has had some roster changes. So Lavinia De Silva and Julia Copper will not play in the final tomorrow for British government rule changes in particular, which must have been a little bit of a disappointment for both you, Lavinia, and the whole team when you found out about the rule changing from coming back from Portugal.
Yeah, I mean, before she went, I was saying, "Are you sure you're okay? Are you sure you're okay?" I went to the head office, and they said, "Yep, elite athletes are still exempt." And then while she was gone, the government made it clear that they were taking away the elite athlete exemption for people who've been in red list countries. So it's unfortunate, but we're not down about it. We're just working. Yeah.
Obviously, this core group has been together a long time. You've added a couple of pieces here and there. Obviously, Janice was a bit more of a new addition, but this group have played together so often. What are the advantages for you from a coaching point of view of having that group that's been set and know each other inside and out?
Well, it's mostly their maturity and professionalism. So they're getting to work. They're practicing hard. They're, they believe in themselves, and their attitude's been, yes, we've changed a couple of, we're without a couple of players, but we're going to create all kinds of matchup advantages for ourselves by being a bit more mobile. So, they know how to play, they know what to do, and whatever happens, they're like me. They have a longer term view. We're thrilled to be in a final, and we're going to, prepare as best we can. We're going to play. Hopefully, it'll be a good game, and whatever happens, we're on a mission to be the best team we can be throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, and I've prepared a few clips just for the viewers at home to understand a little bit more about the team and stuff. So I want to talk about firstly the unselfishness of especially the guards, the Cats, Tiani's, and how they've developed the range of passing on the floor. So I'm just going to pull in here, hopefully, get it to work. A couple of clips. So get rid of this for you. So obviously this was early against Cardiff. I'll just rewind it back and just talk about the likes of Kat and Tiani being unselfish with screens and knowing that they've got a better shooter behind there in Renee open. It looked like initially Renee was going to set that screen, and then obviously Tiani recognised who it was and they switched positions so fluidly, and just to get an open look like that early on in a game for your best shooter, really.
Well, there were a number of really good screens in that game. Those are the things that will just get better and better as the season goes on. So we still do it, and we're capable of doing it. And it's beautiful to watch from a coaching perspective, because quite often it's not a set play. It's recognizing the situation and the opportunity, and working in groups of 2 and 3 to create an open look. So that's going to just keep happening, and we'll get better and better at it. And hopefully we'll get some of those tomorrow. You get somebody a little out of position and you hit them. Yeah, Kat is the best. Kat loves to set screens almost as much as she loves to score or get an assist, because we appreciate it, and she knows her teammates appreciate it.
Yeah,
same with T. It's the same.
Just for the viewers at home that don't recognise, Kat's obviously recognised the switch coming here with Kendi Leonard, I believe, and just the re-angle of the screen in the middle of the floor, just to let Renee kind of flare out on this. And obviously she actually ends up with a drive to the basket, and I think we've got another one coming up as well. A similar thing of just the re-angling of the screens, seeing the switch here again and freeing it up. And that's the thing that a lot of people, I think, don't recognise. That everyone knows that Kat Carr's a great player, but it's those little unselfish moments perhaps has allowed her to accelerate a game to an even higher level.
Absolutely. It's fun to watch. And they, I tell them, even yesterday, we're running a set and she queried something early on. And I said, well, that please don't fall in love with the play. You're always playing basketball, and you're always looking for, if you got a chance to score, after the first pass on a set play, you go, and they know that. And that's one of the beautiful things of this group over the years, is that they know how to play basketball, and they're always looking for opportunities. The less structure you have, the harder you are to guard.
Yeah, and obviously, you mentioned it, the build-up's not been ideal, but does that give you confidence that you can still provide a really high level of basketball tomorrow, even though you're off a short preparation and not really played a game in 2 months?
Well, I'd have to think really long and hard to find a really poor performance by this group. I could think of one in the preseason a couple years ago. So They'll be fine. We're very it's a basketball game, so you have nobody knows what's going to happen. But we got some talented players, and they fight hard. So I would expect a competitive game. Go on.
And what do you need to do to win? Obviously, Leicester provides some threats. What are some of the keys you've got going in of things you really need to perform at a high level to beat Leicester tomorrow?
Well, we need to score. We need to get and make some shots. We need to be a bit disruptive defensively, and we're going to have our hands full with with their size. But we'll. That's really it. We're going to just have to be flexible and adjust. If we're getting hurt in one area, then we need to be able to adjust quickly and make them go somewhere else. But they have a lot of weapons, so it's going to be a challenge.
Perfect. Well, good luck in the final tomorrow, Len, and hopefully we'll catch up with you later in the season.
Thanks, Michael. I love your show and like your commentary on the games, and look forward to seeing this group keep getting better. Your group. WBBL Review and Focus. Yeah.
Unmute yourself, Kaz. So that was Len Bush there, talking to Mikey, which really good to get his perspective on things. So if you want to get involved, leave us a comment, leave us a message in the comments, DM us on the Focus Hoops Twitter, which is @FocusHoops, if you want to join us in the studio. Like our very special next guest, who is going to talk to us about what we've just watched. So we have got Greg Mapofu. Hey, Greg.
How you doing?
How are you doing? Sorry, I'd left you mute. I'm good, thank you. How are you? We're making it up as we go a little bit today.
Oh, so that's what we do in Focus Hoops. We don't have a script.
Just living on the edge. So we just listened to Len Bush there, Sevenoaks coach, talk a bit about the team, the game. What are your guys' takeaways there? What are your first thoughts on Sevenoaks going into tomorrow?
Yeah, I thought Len seems quietly confident. Obviously, he's been the one person that's got the insight on what it is that the group's been doing. And a couple of the things he said, he's right. He's dealing with the veteran group. They know how to prepare themselves. They know how to get themselves up for a game like this. Probably the most experienced group in the whole league at performing in finals. So if there was anybody that could step into this situation and be able to pull off something, it would be them.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And that's the confidence I got from Len was, maybe that's the doubt I had. I shouldn't have had doubt in Len. There's no two ways about it. But you suddenly hear, Len let me know just before the interview, he was happy to obviously get the news out about Koppel and De Silva. And I was like, ooh, that's a big chunk of the rotation for them. Like, you're now going into a major final with arguably the best big in the league in Kate Oliver without any size on the floor whatsoever, and Len just came across so calm, so collected. He's obviously had, I think, some time to prepare for losing Koppel. I think that's been in the works for a while, and I know there was some rumors going around that it was a possibility, that even I'd heard that a couple of weeks ago. So that's obviously been in the works for a while. But losing De Silva, they probably only found out early this week with the rule changing about Portugal. So now you've got to redo a game plan, make some adjustments. And it's going to be a challenge for Sevenoaks, but the group's confident. Obviously, we couldn't grab any of the Sevenoaks players, but I read Kat Carr's piece that WBBL published this morning, and they all seem confident. And they're right. If there's a group that can do it, this is the group that can do it. They know each other so well. They've played together for so long. because normally what they're facing is most other teams wouldn't even have a hope. And yet we're saying Sevenoaks can still win this game. And actually, I don't think any of us would be surprised if they did.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
It's a group, isn't it, that you're talking about? Sorry, Greg, go ahead.
No, just basically going to piggyback off what Mike said there. And, you know, an unspoken thing, the reality of the WBBL and our leagues in this country is that they'll actually be used to not having this or that person available just from practice, just because of people missing for work or other commitments or just random things that will happen throughout the course of the season. So it won't be an alien situation to the personnel having to be without maybe Lavinia or be without Julia Koppel for a game, because they've done it so many times in practice just because of the circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think Sevenoaks' biggest, what do they need to do to beat Leicester? And I'll ask the same question when we've watched the Leicester interview.
It's a good question. I think
the biggest thing.
Go on, Greg. Sorry.
Go on, Mikey.
No, you go first.
Okay, I'll say the biggest thing is dealing with maybe a period where you go scoreless and how they react to that. That's going to be the key. Because I think there will be a stretch for both teams where they go scoreless. We speak about Leicester's defense and what it does to people, but also on the other end, they could quite as easily go 5 minutes without scoring themselves. So for both teams, I think that will be the key, is how you deal with that sort of dry spell that you're going to have during the game. And that's going to be the key.
I think rebounding's huge. Now, Sevenoaks are a team that always group rebound anyway, but missing that size, even if I think they'll find creative enough ways and intuition to slow down Oliver inside. I think they'll come up with enough. But then it's what they do when they're scrambling out to shoot, is they're not quite in position to box out effectively, because when you're in a like 4-on-3, if you do double Oliver or you're scrambling on a closeout, you're not always in a great position to rebound. And now you're undersized as well. That may be a challenge, because Leicester do have the length in the wing spots to rebound as well as the bigs. So I think that's a challenge. Just being so undersized and knowing that they are probably going to have to throw some double teams here and there just makes that whole rebounding situation a little bit more complex for them.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I think, the defense that we've seen from Leicester, which you mentioned, Greg, and which to me has sort of stood out all season in the Leicester games that I've watched. They seem like a tough defensive team. So Sevenoaks going to need to get round that or find a way to counter that, I think. Okay, you guys got any more thoughts on Sevenoaks, or do we want to move on to looking at Leicester?
Yeah, we can move on. I think we covered quite a lot of that in the segment that we're going to show a little bit later.
Great. Okay, so we will jump straight into our interview with Jesper Sundberg, and then we will discuss. And feel free to get involved. Just leave us comments, drop us a DM on the Focus Hoops Twitter if you want to come and join us like Greg has.
Welcome to the WBBL Cup Final 2021 preview, now joined by head coach of the Leicester Riders, Jesper Sundberg. Jesper, obviously you've had a strong start to season, and you finished last year with a final, now you're back in one. So what experience can you take away from the Durham game last year and looking forward into the final tomorrow against Sevenoaks?
I think the big learning point for us last year with the Durham game was more of to be able to prepare and work through the circumstances that were going. Like, things weren't perfect and they weren't going to be perfect in the way that we want to prepare. So I think we learned a lot from that. Obviously, this year we have a lot of new guards.
So I think because Mikey left, we have lost our video. So we'll just
Oh, that's
bear with us a second, and
we'll get back in shortly. Speaking of Jesper Sundberg, there he's really sort of leveled up a lot of what Leicester Riders have been able to do from since he's come in. And as he was saying there, having been the last team to win something in the WBBL, winning the trophy in February last year, they've kind of gone from that and kicked on. They've not been happy with the fact that, we won something and rested on their laurels. The foundations of the defense that they're playing now was there, but they've really fine-tuned it now and made it something a lot more, integral to what it is that they're trying to achieve.
Yeah. I agree there, and I've enjoyed watching the Leicester team this season. Even the opening game against Manchester, which wasn't the best for a Manchester perspective. But to me, they seem like a team that have been really, like you say, they know how they work, they know what they want to do, and they'll have a lot of confidence going into tomorrow. Right, we have our video back from Mikey, so we will just go back to where we were. So this is Michael Hansen-Morris speaking to Jesper Sundberg, the Leicester Riders coach, earlier today.
To be able to prepare and work through the circumstances that were going, like things weren't perfect and they weren't going to be perfect in the way that we want to prepare. So I think we learned a lot from that. Obviously, this year we have a lot of new guards. The big rotation is still the same, so we have still that continuity. But on the court, just being calm in stress situations, because obviously we, in that game, built the lead a couple times and they got back every single time, and then still being calm to kind of stretch it out and be the ones controlling the game still, though Durham had the runs at times.
Yeah, and obviously you've talked about the final last year was a bit of a unique challenge. This perhaps maybe the most unique one. You're playing a team that hasn't played in 2 months in Sevenoaks. So just talk about from your point of view and obviously preparing the team, how much of a challenge it is to prepare for a team that haven't played in 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, that's always different, like we said, in terms of preparing and things we normally do. But if there's any team that you probably can prepare for without playing, it's Sevenoaks, because we know what they're really good at and we know what they're trying to do. And it's not going to be so much about the actual set plays, because they're better in the broken play scenarios. So it's going to be, okay, can we defend I was going to say Cat and a couple of pick and rolls, but that's not going to happen. But Cat getting to the high post up to the corners and finding the cutters like Garrido and Janice cutting on the baseline, like those are the situations that we need to control. And I don't think that's going to change for them in terms of them playing or been out for 2 months. So if there's any team, then probably Sevenoaks is the team that has their tendencies and are really good at what they do and will continue doing that, whether they've been practicing or not.
Obviously, looking a little bit closer at your team, defensively this year you've been exceptional, and you mentioned that the front court's been identical. So how much has keeping that group of 4 together really helped move from last season to starting the season strong this year?
Obviously, given us a huge head start, because it's a lot about the positioning, obviously, and with them 4 knowing the positioning and how I want it to be set up, the more pressure the guard can put on the ball because they trust that they have the people behind them. So the fact that we only have to teach half of the group, let's put it that way, made things way easier. And obviously we've had a record-long preseason as well to nudge those things. So, but yeah, we're happy with how we're playing defensively for sure.
Yeah, and obviously you've got all the new additions in the backcourt, and it seems like this year you've been able to get a lot of deflections and get your hands on the ball a lot more, and just talk about how that's helped spark your offense, which at times has struggled.
Has it? Yeah, so basically, yeah, obviously we want to be on ball pressure and keeping the help side behind it, and players like Hannah Robb and Anna Leppencooper is really starting by putting pressure on the ball, and then it makes life easier on everyone else behind it, basically. And we've been doing a really good job of, like you said, deflecting and actually trying to keep our arms and bodies in the passing lanes, and by that, really making it difficult to find passes and for us to know what's going to be the next step for the offense, basically.
And also talking about that, Hannah Robb's been one of your new additions, obviously WBBL veteran in 4 or 5 years up in Caledonia. I'm just going to pull some clips in here, but just talk about some of her impact she's had on the ball. Here she's guarding Shumpert, and she's done a great job to me of fighting over screens and really keeping that ball pressure consistent for you. Yeah,
no, she's done a phenomenal job of just, working hard, trying to find the angles and, like you said, work over screens, and then, but also what happens after she's over the screen. Like, it's not always that we're in between, but she's doing a great job with angles. You can see there, for example. But in general, it's just her and everyone else deciding to really work hard, because that's not really a fun thing to do for 40 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. And just as these clips finish, just so the viewers can get an idea of what doing, obviously. Hannah obviously come back from GB. How's she feeling, obviously, having that experience, and how's that helped her kind of grow being around the senior national team setup now?
Yeah, obviously it's quite short time since she got back, but in terms of the last time, I think she got excited and just getting a view of what it's like to play against the next level of competition and the level that she wants to be on and tries to be getting to. So I think it's been great, and just motivational wise, like coming to work every single day and playing defense like this and the clips we see now, it's getting easier knowing that there is a next step for those things.
And sort of flipping onto the other side of the ball, offensively, how do you feel like the group's progressing? Do you feel like you're getting the shots you want, or are there things you feel like you're still developing on that end of the floor? Because from certainly look at some of the numbers, obviously the scoring's not massively high, but you're struggling on uncontested catch and shoot opportunities of all things. I think you're down at 26%. So do you feel like that's just a matter of time of you'll start making shots, or are there better looks that you want to continue to create on that end of the floor?
I'm not necessarily not happy with the looks that we get, and I can honestly say that the percentage will go down. If you look at those clips again and see Hannah playing defense, like, she's going to be a lot more tired playing offense than if we would have played 2-3 zone for the whole game. So the fact that we might shoot a little lower percentage, that might happen. But in terms of the shots we're getting and the reads we're making as a team, I think we're doing a good job. But with that being said, we obviously have a lot to work on and improve.
And then also the one thing that has perhaps been a little bit higher, I think, for you this year is the turnovers. Obviously came down at the weekend against Caledonia, but there's games you've kind of been up in the high to mid 20s of turnovers. So just talk about how important it is to try and reduce them, especially against a team like Sevenoaks, who can get out and run and score in transition quite effectively. Yeah, no, obviously, again, it comes down to us learning and getting a habit of playing games, which is not happening too often now, and learning to play up and down where we can have that half-court pressure and defensively and have fresh heads playing offense afterwards, which, again, is not an easy thing, but the more games we get to play, the more we will learn from it, and the better game conditioning we will have and make easier decisions. So just talk a little bit about the offensive development. Obviously, we're here going to talk about just some of the flare screens and creating space. But obviously, you've got some depth of you've got a real depth of scoring on the team this year, and you've really got those multiple options on the offensive end you can go to. So just talk about sort of the spacing has developed and creating good looks and allowing everyone to sort of sustain that role with drives or catch and shoot.
Yeah, so like you said, we obviously have different types of weapons, but our biggest upside from other teams, I would say, is that we can flip the position completely, where we have our bigs playing on the outside and our guards playing on the inside. I think that's the biggest difference for other teams when they play against us. Like we see on the clips here, we had Ella shooting a 3, and then we can have Sarah and Holly in the post-ups, and just that spacing makes things so much easier, because right now we see our point guard is the only one inside of the 3-point line right now, and that kind of does get the spacing and that we need, and makes hopefully life harder for the defense.
Just take that out quickly. And obviously, just looking ahead, where do you feel like the keys are to tomorrow's final against Sevenoaks, who I imagine going in, it's probably going to be a close game that comes down to the stretch?
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, like them converting on turnovers. So basically, just to put it easy, and it's going to sound stupid, but just being able to defend all their points. So, for example, are we going to be able to defend a 1-0 Janice layup after a turnover? No. But if we can make them play half-court defense and we can control the back doors, then at least we will contest their options. So basically, what we've struggled with in the past, again, we're saying the past because it's not this season, but is when they get second chance points and transition points. That's what's been the real killer. So in order to stop that, obviously we need to contest and be in position defensively to get the rebounds, and then offensively we need to be locked in and trying to actually take advantage of our situations that we do have, and also be a little more accurate in our passing. Was example, like if we get a switch with our post against Tiani, for example, she's doing a very good job of still holding that position and making that pass tough. So those are the situations where we need to have patience and trying to find a better situation to get that ball inside, or trying to find something else where we still have the advantage, rather than go with something that might lead it to a turnover where it's baskets that we can't defend.
And just talk about for Sevenoaks specifically, the challenge Renee Bush gives your defense. You've obviously won both games against Nottingham this year, but in a kind of way, you've gone 1-1 against Chelsea Schumpert. The first game she was very quiet. The second game, obviously she had the 8 threes, and I know you haven't seen Sevenoaks in a year. But Renee had, I think, 21 the last time you played each other back in February last year. So just talk about the challenge she can put on your defense.
Yeah, no, she's playing really well, and it's good to see her in the national team as well. We know that she's a really good shooter. I think she's doing a better job of shooting different shots this year in the first 4 games we've seen. She's not just spacing and shooting that catch and shoot. She actually comes off screens and then it takes one dribble and then shoots it, and actually scoring multiple ways. So for us, again, it's just trying to keep our off-ball angles with her and really run her off the 3-point line, to be honest.
Well, best of luck tomorrow in the final, and hopefully we'll catch up with you later on the season as it progresses.
Thank you. All right.
There we go. that's what I was looking for. So that was Jesper Sundberg, Leicester Riders coach, talking to Michael earlier. Mikey, so obviously a lot of you've covered a lot of things there with Jesper. What stood out to you most about his thoughts on the game tomorrow and playing Sevenoaks? Like you say, they haven't played Sevenoaks in a year, but they are a team that he can plan for.
Yeah. First of all, what stood out to me was I felt like he'd seen my questions before them, because some of the things I had ready to cover, he kind of alluded to in early answers and stuff, which was quite funny. But no, like all the impressions I've got and the conversations I've had with the players this week and I've heard around the league is how well organised he is, and you can tell that in the prep, the way he understands things, and the fact he's in a stage where he knows that Sevenoaks haven't played in 2 months. He's got four tapes to go on this year, and as Len kind of alluded to, even Len's not quite sure how good some of the tapes are yet. He feels confident in the prep he's done and where the team will be going in. And you can always tell when Leicester play, they're so well organised. The team understand the threats and what they need to do, and that's what's helped them be so good defensively. And you can kind of see that in that interview there.
And you mentioned, we were talking last week about the game that Leicester scheduled for Sunday just gone against Caledonia, where they won quite significantly there. And you were talking about them maybe wanting to get a little bit more time together to have an extra game in. Do you think that will have helped them?
Yeah, I mean, it's always odd because obviously they were missing a couple of players with international duties. So, yeah, there's pros and cons to that, but they got some of the younger players some more minutes. Obviously, gave the likes of Gaskin a run out again, who's obviously missed some time before the cup final. We'll come on to that, I know, in shortly. But yeah, it's always that confidence building when it's games, and Jesper said it there better. Like the reason the offense isn't necessarily clicking to a high level is they've just not had the game reps to do it. And me and Greg will both tell you as a coach, you do need time in 5-on-5 against a team that doesn't know your sets to find out the strengths and weaknesses of things. So you can see it, and things clicked at the weekend for sure. They only committed 12 turnovers, which was a big bonus for them, because I say they've been up in the mid-20s all season, really. So little things like that is you're always going to take something out of the game.
Yeah. And Greg, what do you take away from what Jesper's saying there? What do you think they need to do to get the win against Sevenoaks?
I think he was, very insightful with the fact that, their defensive identity right now, it's not accidental. Mikey pointed out that they're not, setting the world alight offensively. So in that way, you're using your defense to generate your offense. When they get those pokes 1-on-1 up the floor with the guards and get an easy score, those are the kind of things that are going to create a little bit of separation on the scoreboard. When they can get 3 stops in a row and then the anxiety kicks in for the other team, that's when you get separation on the scoreboard. So like he was saying, he wants every Sevenoaks score to be earned. That's knowing that, if they end up in a shootout situation with Sevenoaks, then, they might be behind the 8 ball a little bit in that case. So that's going to be the key for them to make sure that they play a tidy game on Friday tomorrow.
And how difficult do you think it will be playing a team that they haven't seen for a year? Is that just something that they can adapt to? Or does it give Sevenoaks a bit of an advantage because people haven't really seen them?
I mean, it's both ways. Sevenoaks haven't seen us in a year. No, we keep doing this.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't think it's if you want to look at 2 teams, obviously with Sheffield not being in the league this year, 2 teams that know each other well, Leicester Riders, Sevenoaks Suns. The continuity in both sides kind of, means that it's a moot point to say that you're not seeing them much this year. They know each other. The 1 or 2 wrinkles that they're going to throw in are only going to last for so long during the game before the coaches make the adjustments to them. So I don't think it's going to be that much of a factor to say that they have not seen each other a lot this season.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, really, Leicester have kind of got the advantage because they've got more new players in that Sevenoaks haven't played against. in a way. Like, it's a little bit easier to talk to your teammates about stuff you've done and stuff you've seen when you played against them before and you've got examples. But when you haven't got those examples to show because there's new players against you, that's maybe where it's tricky. But yeah, both teams haven't seen each other in a year, but they also know each other well. And I don't think there's going to be a huge advantage. The really advantage is Leicester having played 4 games since Christmas and Sevenoaks haven't, I think. But I still can't see it being a massive factor in the game to the extent of it just feels like it's going to be close. It's one of those matchups where like, you can put it in any league. There's always 2 or 3 teams when they play each other, you just expect it to be a close game, no matter what happens, whether a team shoots great or every team makes threes, no one can score. You always just find a way to make it a close game somehow. Kind of what we saw in the BBL Cup final in a strange way. Like, London, Newcastle have kind of starting to get into that stage where those games are always generally going to be close. And look, London massively short-handed, down 13, 15 in a hole, and next thing you know, 8-10 minutes of basketball time later, we're up 7. And that's the type of thing you can see. And Sevenoaks don't know how to lose, and that's an understated thing. They don't lose many games, and this Leicester team's getting into that category as well. But obviously, Sevenoaks have done it over a longer period for a more consistent time, that they don't know what losing is. So that's always going to help in a final.
And I think, I mean, what you just said there, 2 teams that aren't losing, it's what you want to see in a cup final as well. You want the 2 teams that are going to put on a really close game, put on a great game, especially when we've got the platform like we have with it being on Sky. And from personal experience, I've always found the women's cup finals, the majority of the years, or the trophy final, the playoff final, have always been the closer of the 2 when they have the double headers. I've always been very high on the women's game. Has got really close games, and they've always been super exciting. So hopefully that's what we get again tomorrow. Any more thoughts on Leicester, Greg, or should we jump into one of our player interviews?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, they're going to want to get into that last 5 minutes of the game, with a little bit more of a healthy lead. If it's close in the last 2-3 minutes, that's advantage Sevenoaks, I think, with the experience that they have in their group. So look out for that.
I think we were just photobombed by Darren.
Hamburg lane to the show.
We'll give him a minute to get sorted. And whilst we do, so Mikey spoke to Kate Oliver of the Leicester Riders yesterday. Sorry, Mikey. So we've got a short interview with Kate, and the full interview will be on the Focus Hoops YouTube channel afterwards. So this is just a taster.
As always, year to year, you make progressions for you, career high in steals, career high in blocks. So just talk about how the second year in Jesper's scheme has allowed you to be more comfortable and expand your presence on the defensive end even more than it was last year.
Yeah, I mean, we're always trying to work on our game and work on those individual elements to help contribute. And so the fact that we have managed to be in the gym since August last year and having that extra amount of time just to be on the court and to get in the gym and work on those things, it certainly helps, especially compared to, I know we're in a privileged situation compared to a lot of the other teams around the league where they've had a lot more restriction to gym access, and just the sheer amount of time that they've had together as a team. The fact that we've had that extra time means that we've also got more time to work on our individual game as well.
And obviously, unique challenge with the final. Sevenoaks haven't played in 2 months. So how much you relying on what you've seen on film from early in the season versus how much you've sort of got from experience of playing them in before? Obviously, you've met in finals before, you've met in big games. Last year was the trophy semi-final where you beat them near enough a year ago to the game. So just talk about that balance of preparation for this Sevenoaks team.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting that, as I mentioned, that we have got a few new members on the team this year that have not had the chance to play against this Sevenoaks team yet. And this is always a massive matchup between the two teams every year. And I think that it's really cool that excitement that we as players that have played against them before and have had that competition is really infectious to the new players. You know, they're so excited to play this final against Sevenoaks, which is really special because, you know, they haven't seen them play this season and they don't know them as a team necessarily, only what we're able to tell them and show them on tape. So to get that buy-in and that energy surrounding the game, I think is really cool, and makes it sort of that much more special for us coming up against them as well. But I think what you mentioned too, with us having a core group that are really familiar with each other, it's very much the same thing for Sevenoaks. You know, they've got their core group that have played together for a lot of years, and I don't think that not having played since before Christmas is actually going to be that big of a detriment to them, because all respect to them, they work very well together, and I think that will show through on Friday.
I'm getting good at this. That's worked. And I think we have Daz of the Kaz and Daz show joining us live from a tube, a bus, a train.
A train that will be a rail replacement bus service. That will then be another train. So good times for Darren right now. Oh well.
That sounds like it could be a long journey.
We'll see.
So, Darren, fresh from commentating the London Lions game, how was it?
You know, it was fantastic as always. You know, real privilege to do the job I do. But yeah, great game, London Lions. They really gutted one out, because after that first quarter start, it was looking bad for them. It was like a 3-10, 3-12 start. But I tell you, Josh Ward Hibbett, let me tell you all, if you don't already know, now you know. That guy is different mindset. The way he was able to just control his situation. Boy, he played 5 minutes. I was about ready to give him the MVP. Nigel Lloyd talked me down just a bit, but holy boats, what a performance from Josh Ward Hibbett. Clutch 3 to take the lead. I thought it was initially a 2, but it was a 3, so to take the lead. Then the free throws, then the rebound right at the end to secure it. Unreal. I know Mikey's smiling because Mikey loves Josh Ward Hibbett, and rightly so. We all do. Hell of a player, and that's what they brought him to London to do. So they're headed to host the Newcastle Eagles for about the 17th time this season, and we're here for it. But yeah, good. No. Hopefully the audio is okay here. But yeah, it was a great game. Leicester Riders, they're a real tough team. You know, Rob Paternoster, coach of the decade, and then some for me. But Lions, man, they don't understand what the word quit is. They really don't. Now, that brings me though neatly to this final that you guys are talking about. You've been talking about a great job. I've been listening to it whilst I've been making my way to this shambles, and I'm talking about my train situation, not this fine broadcast. And firstly, the work you guys have put in, like, people don't understand the work that you three have put in this week has been astronomical, and that's amazing. And the video work, I'm loving it. Mikey, you're a superstar. I never have to appear on this broadcast again. Like, don't you worry, you guys have it covered. I'm probably about to lose internet. But that Lions layoff, that 3-week layoff essentially, and we saw what happened that first time back against Plymouth. Who's to say that's not going to happen again to the Suns? Again, I may lose it, but we will see.
Well, if you're going to lose it, what's your prediction?
Oh, that's a prediction right there.
No, we need an MVP as well. We can't let him off the hook. This is the Kaz and Daz show, so
predictions abound.
Riders, Hannah Robb. There you go.
Okay.
But I don't feel good about it because it's Glenn Bush, man. It's the Sun. It's like you know what they're about. You know what Sevenoaks are going to do. They're going to bring the noise to Leicester. But this is the one time when Leicester, I think, really might just get it over the top. And Hannah Robb, I like Hannah Robb to have a real big special moment that she's waiting for.
A little bit. I need more. I need a spread. I need a spread from you.
Oh yeah, that's yeah, that might be a lost connection, but I'm gonna guess he was gonna say it was. That's a perfectly good caption too. That's
Oh,
he's gone. He's gone. We've lost him.
Oh, lucky him.
Once the train starts moving. No, I think he said it was going to be close though, so I think we'll let him off that one. Yeah, no, interesting. I'll flip roles a little bit. Obviously, Kate speaking there, and I know we talked a little bit about on our preview, Greg, Kate, but Kaz, just talk about the impact of like Kate for you in terms of being a legit big, and obviously she's been in the league for, I think it's her third season now, and the impact you've seen her have on this Riders team.
I mean, she's just dominant, isn't she? She's 15.8 points per game this season, 7.6 rebounds, 1.8 assists, and it's just a presence, having the presence in the post down there as a big, and she contributes so much. And her Holly and Sarah together as well, they just, they can do everything for you. They can score, they can rebound, and she's just such a fantastic player, and it's so great to see her, season after season. And she's been having a great season, hasn't she? I think. Did you predict her as MVP at the end of this season, Mikey, in our preview, or was that it might have been in a final?
I can't. I mean, it was. I mean, we only did it a month ago, but it feels like about 6 years ago.
But yeah, fantastic season. She's such a great player, so integral to the team as well. And it's exciting to see her play. So I'm sure she'll have a huge game tomorrow as well.
That's a good question, Chester. Ultimately, I think, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong in this thinking here, that it's a simple case of just the cup final, the women's cup final moving back. And obviously the netball, from what I'm aware, is I think there's a triple header tomorrow, so it's back to back to back. So it's not like you can play a netball game, flip to basketball, get back to netball or whatever. There wasn't a time slot unless the women's cup final tipped at like 2 to have it not clash with netball tomorrow. So I think it's just a case of obviously the final moving rather than anything else.
It is what it is. It's obviously always nice to get the neutrals in, but failing that, there's still a healthy core of basketball fans that can tune into the game and enjoy what I have no doubts will be a great final.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, we were supposed to have this final a month ago, 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago. Different teams. That wasn't different teams. It was different. Yeah.
Different venue.
I think on that, obviously, I think we're all glad now it's here that the two teams that won the semi-final are able to play in the final. And I assume, obviously, with the new testing protocols, both teams are probably being tested today, if not yesterday, get results back, and hopefully it's all clear. And if not, I suppose, even at this late stage, that even a team like Nottingham and Cardiff are technically on emergency standby, which is completely different dynamic than we've ever had before. But I think we're at the stage where everyone's kind of confident with what's going on and protocols being followed and stuff. So we should be good to go.
Any thoughts on that, Greg?
No, it is what it is, really.
Yeah.
There was a bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Controversy about the situation with Sevenoaks. At that moment, deciding to withdraw from the cup final, but with the circumstances being what they were, I don't really think they had a choice. But as circumstances change, information changes, you adjust, and we're here now, so we move.
And this is the new way things are that we have to get used to adapting to, even in sports. So we have up next, we've got an interview with Holly Winterburn, who talks about the game tomorrow. Again, we've just got a short clip here, and the full interview that Mikey did will be on our YouTube channel as well. So make sure to check that out, and we'll see what Holly has to say.
Obviously, you've been on some good defensive teams before, but just how much potential has this group got? Obviously, you've held 6 of 9 opponents to under 50 points so far this year. Where have you found that success on the defensive end?
I think it's the way Jesper really gets onto us about how we play defense and not taking any possessions off. And in practice, it can be easy to just go through the motions and just, oh, it doesn't really matter. But if you don't do it one time, he'll tell you. So I think he's been really good at like keeping us accountable for that. And just like our defense kind of sparks our offense. Like we love to run in transition. It's easy to score in transition. So I think it's win-win for us. We play good defense, we get a stop, and then we get to go out and run. So I don't think it's something we have to really try and do. We kind of just, it's become our like nature now to just do it.
And obviously Sevenoaks, you obviously haven't played them recently and you've not got a lot of tape on them, but you're familiar with certainly the key personnel in the backcourt, the likes of Tiani, Renee, Kat. So just talk about some of the challenges facing that veteran group gives you.
I think it's just got to be a like team unit kind of effort from all of us. They don't have, obviously Kat's great, Tiani's great, and Renee's great in themselves, but they play well as a team and they all play off of each other. So I think it's going 5 of us against 5 of them and kind of stopping them. Just stop it. If we shut down each individual player, then they can't play well together. And then I think if we force them to play individually, we'll have success in that.
And obviously you've had mixed results against Sevenoaks in the past. What are sort of some of the areas you're focused in on of needing to kind of win to make sure you get the right outcome on Friday night?
I think just making the first punch and putting them on the back foot, because it's very, when you play Sevenoaks, you have a bad start, like you're on the back foot the whole game, and they're so experienced, they're so good. Like once they're in control, they never lose it, kind of thing. So I think like going out strong, making like an intention that first 5-10 minutes. I think every game I played them, we've won. Like that's what we've done. We've had a good start and kind of took control of the game. So I think, yeah, just making that first punch will be really beneficial for us.
And obviously it has been a difficult season with everything going on off the court in terms of the pandemic. Sevenoaks haven't played in 2 months. So how much of a challenge does that provide when you've not got that recent tape to look at? And obviously you've not seen them personally for a couple of years now in terms of how they've continued to evolve as a group.
I think Jesper with us is like, he watches a crazy amount of film and that he loves to do it. So I think he's found every single piece of information he needs. Obviously they haven't been in training and stuff, but personally I haven't even thought about that because I know they'll be ready to play. So I think they've played the same kind of way, get it around the high post, like they have great players there. So I think just taking away what their like traditional strengths are will be good, but I think really the key to this game is just going to be us and how we perform. I feel like if we play to the best of our ability, we'll be able to win. So like going over their like tendencies and stuff like that, but I think we're mainly focused on us.
Something I really liked there that Holly said, that they're focusing on them. And I'd seen an interview she'd done earlier with the WBBL official where she sort of said in the past she didn't always like playing against Sevenoaks, but now this time she's like really excited about it, and I really like that approach that she's got there. What do you think about that, Greg?
Yeah, that has to be the way. Even with being a coach, you do a lot of scouting, you do a lot of preparation, but you don't change who you are. you make slight adjustments, and that's the key here. Whoever has, the better ability to adjust during the game and do it quickly will be the successful team because the margins are so fine. But if you're going to try and change your identity at this point to play against this opponent, you're going to be asking a lot of your players and yourself as a coach, and it's just not going to work out.
Yeah, for sure. And look, obviously, I did the interview with Holly, and the thing I got from her was just how calm and composed she was. And I mean, I saw Holly make her Riders starting debut. It was the first game at the new arena, and that was the first start in WBL. She was 15, and even from there, you could tell like she thrives in pressure situations quite a bit. She doesn't mind getting stuck in. She's not someone that's afraid to go get the ball in the last shot. But the sense I just got yesterday was just how relaxed she was. She didn't feel like she was under any pressure at all. And I think that's just part of her growth. And I'm sure her time at Oregon, playing with the likes of players she did, playing against the Team USA, like this is probably a walk in the park in a funny old way compared to going up against the likes of Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi. You're pretty much your first game for a college in a way. And I think that kind of came across in Holly, and she's had a really good season so far. She's contributing at both ends of the floor, and it'll be really interesting to see how far she can continue to develop.
Yeah, she's having a really good season. 16 points per game, 5.8 rebounds, 5.2 assists. And when she came back in the summer, there was a lot of talk about, this is going to be really exciting because obviously she's a very exciting player that's gone, like you say, gone over to Oregon and come back to play in the WBBL in this league. And I don't know, for me, she's lived up to what people expected her to do. She's having a great season so far. And I think, her name recognition, having a player of her caliber in the league is only a good thing for the league to grow, and especially to be on show in something like the Cup final tomorrow. Would you, do you think that's the case, Mikey?
Yeah, for sure. And I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, we've not seen Leicester in many close games this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the game, Leicester need a basket or they need some free throws, that Holly's the one given the opportunity to be put in that situation. And obviously, Leicester will do it by committee as a team. They always do. But if you know, as a coach, Greg, that if you draw something up, you've got the plan, and then you've got several options. But if Holly's not near the front of that list, I will be surprised, and that just shows how far she's come.
Absolutely. Greg, thoughts on Holly's so far?
Yeah, I generally agree with what Mikey said there. And the big thing for me is, who knows if she's lived up to people's expectations? Because some people have some insane expectations of her, and some people just didn't know what to expect. So, again, it ultimately doesn't matter. She's comfortable in her own skin. She's maturing as a player. She's maturing as a person. And she's really feeding off the people around her. And that's the key for what Leicester need for them to be successful, is the whole unit. And, with what she said there, Coach Sternberg keeping everybody accountable, all she has to focus on is getting, the finer details correct when she steps onto the floor.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we have one last interview with Christina Gaskin from Leicester. Again, the full interview will be on the Focus Hoops YouTube channel. This is just a clip, so let's listen to Christina.
You've had a bit of a turbulent time, obviously with your own situation. So about 3-4 weeks ago, you blogged that you weren't quite sure where you were going to be. Perhaps if the final was 3 weeks ago, you would have missed it. So what a relief is it to actually be able to play in the final and actually know it's going to go ahead?
Absolutely. So I actually got the all clear yesterday from the doctor. I've been playing with a heart rate monitor on for the last 2 weeks. So they've done a lot of thorough testing, and I'm very happy and relieved to say that, everything's okay and I'll be able to play in the final. So full steam ahead now till Friday.
And obviously you talked a little bit, obviously, in your past and on your blogs that you've had a bit of a turbulent career. Obviously you had things on in Italy, and obviously you blogged quite prominently about your time in college. So just talk about how sort of the difficulty of going through what you've gone through in the last month has sort of of reflecting on your whole career, and the fact that it's kind of behind you allows you to look forward, not just short term but long term with continuing?
Absolutely. I think that obviously I've encountered, like any athlete, a lot of different challenges with the serious car accident in Italy that you're referring to, some of my struggles through college, which is obviously written on my blog. And I think that just sets you up to be able to deal with change and to be able to be adaptable and to be resilient and realize that you have the sort of mental strength to be able to get through those challenges. I think that being an athlete and being used to even, traveling and playing in different countries, meeting different people, getting used to a new team, a new culture, a new language, perhaps, those are all challenges that you're used to facing. And I think sometimes being able to do that and being able to have experience in your back pocket of those kind of challenges sets you up to be able to deal with, the current pandemic and a situation that we're in.
Yeah, and unique probably brings us on to this year perfectly. You haven't played Sevenoaks in a year, which is a very odd situation, and obviously Sevenoaks themselves now nearly 2 months without playing. So talk about the preparation to go into this final when you've got a team that you're not really sure exactly what you're going to do compared to obviously your previous finals.
I think that obviously, we haven't had the luxury of playing them thus far this year, but I think we also have to remember that a lot of their personnel are similar. We're used to playing against Yanni Clark. We're used to playing against Kat Carr, Renee Bush. I've played against Renee since we were juniors. So we were very familiar with one another's game. And equally, from their perspective, I'm sure they would say the same thing. We've got a lot of returners that they're used to their style of play and some of the actions that we run. So although we haven't had the opportunity to play one another, I'd like to think that we've had the experience in the past. So that gives us, both of us an advantage.
Sorry, Mikey, that's not, you probably didn't want to pause on there. So that's great to hear from Christina. And it's really, really good that she's got the all clear, that she's healthy and she's going to be able to play. Because that's what we want to see. We want to see her in the final. We want to see her being able to play for Leicester and being all healthy. Mikey, what did you make of speaking to Christina?
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the first thing she said, and it was great to know, because obviously when you read the blog initially, you're like, and she was, I mean, even when you read it again, which I did afterwards, it's like in that moment she seemed so calm about the whole situation. I'm like, someone's saying I've got a heart problem. I'm not sure how calm and collected I would be. And obviously she's gone through these things, the fact that she's had to play with a heart rate monitor and stuff, and that she's been given the all clear is a great thing. And I think she's got a real chance to be an X factor tomorrow. She's someone that's kind of gone under the radar all year. She's been super efficient from the floor. Numbers come down slightly because she struggled a little bit at times against Caledonia from the floor, but she's still up shooting, I think, 79% effective field goal percentage this year, which is an insane number. I think she's 60% from three, and she's another one that can really stretch the floor. And when you play so much attention to the Leicester threats, you start focusing on Holly, then Kate, then you worry about Sarah and stuff and scoring, then suddenly you've just got that one player that can get in the red. And if she can get you 10, 11 points all of a sudden on a team that scores 65 to win a game, if she can get 10 of those, that's going to be the 10 that pushes you over the edge and clinches a game against the Sevenoaks. And really, if you kind of compare the two benches, that is the gaping hole with Sevenoaks, with also this injury news, is they've not got a lot to call on from the bench tomorrow, and Leicester do. And I kind of think that may sway the balance of the game. But of course, we never quite know.
No, definitely. And like you say, a very efficient player, someone that, sometimes players that don't, it's not always reflected in the score sheet, is it? The impact that they can have on the game. I think Christina's one of those players. Greg, what do you like about Christina's game?
Pretty much that, with one of the other hats that I wear during the course of a week, I've had to look at a lot of these teams and what they're doing. And I was quietly wondering to myself when I looked at Leicester, why is she not playing more? Because when I was looking at the numbers, they were astronomical. There was one point in the season she was scoring above 100% effective field goal percentage. So that means she's scoring more points than what she's actually shooting. Crazy situation. So As a coach, I was just sat there thinking to myself, yes, but what the hell are you doing? Why is she on the floor anymore? We know now, but at the time it was a little bit of a mystery. And, if you've got that kind of player in your back pocket, a reliable presence and someone that's not going to sink when they don't get huge minutes, it's always a gift. So she's always going to be able to provide that kind of spark for Leicester riders off the bench. And it's not just going to be offensively as well, because she puts a shift in defensively. She'll get involved on the balls, she'll get involved in the ball screen actions and do a lot of the sort of scrappy, dirty work. And that kind of allows the guards to be aggressive and get out and run that they like to do. So, yeah, it's a very big key that they're going to be able to get her on the floor tomorrow, and we'll see what kind of impact she has.
Yeah, and like you mentioned before as well, Mikey, the bench that Leicester have, the depth that they have compared to Sevenoaks, who've now just lost a couple of players, that could be quite a difference maker in tomorrow's game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it'll be interesting to see, certainly from the Sevenoaks side, of who actually steps up from the bench. Who does Len give the opportunity to? Because I can't imagine he'll just play 6. Obviously, there's always a potential of some foul trouble. So is it the likes of an Asher Andrews stepping up? But Leicester have got that young talent coming through as well. And it'll be interesting to see if Jesper gives them a go, because they've had some really productive minutes off the bench this year from the likes of Katie Chineska, Erin Hykin. They've given some real solid contributions. So it'll be interesting to see. And the other thing is, obviously, it doesn't really directly relate to tomorrow, but in the long run, now netball's back, Ella Clark will be on her split duties, and she will miss some games with the Super League team for Loughborough. So again, it gives those opportunities to likes of Christina to pop into starting lineup, fill that role. And when you've got someone with that experience off the bench, along with Whitney Allen, that can just slot in, and it feels like you don't lose a lot losing someone as good as Ella Clark. That's a great situation for a coach to have.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so we have got a breakdown that Mikey and Greg have done of some game tape, which we will go to in a minute or so. But just before that, we'll take a quick break and have a word from our sponsors, Notch.
Word from our sponsors, Notch, the mark of achievement, and we are very glad to have them on board with Focus Hoops this year. They make fantastic bracelets that look super stylish and really help you celebrate your sporting achievement. They've just launched a basketball collection, and we're really excited to be on board with them. Let's imagine that you're a player. Let's say that you're Courtney Vandersloot. You got 18 assists in a single ball game, and you want a notch and a bracelet to commemorate that fact. Well, you can do just that. Customize it to your team colors, put the year that you achieved it, and get it the exact size that you need. There are a number of the colors available. Or maybe you're a coach. Maybe you're the coach of a basketball team. Let's just say that you're the London Tyrannosaurus Rex. Your team wears red. You had the league's most valuable player, the MVP, and you want to celebrate that. You want to award them with a great looking notch bracelet. Well, you can do just that. And you can get it saying MVP on the notch itself. That's the charm. You can get the colour you want. Gold is one that I'd go for if we're commemorating the best player in the league. We could even get the team logo, if it's the Tyrannosaurus Rex, let's say, on there, and present it in a beautiful presentation case. Huge thanks for Notch for coming on board Focus Hoops.
Okay, and we're back. So we're talking WBBL Cup final. Get involved in the comments. Leave us some comments. What are your predictions? Who's going to win tomorrow? Let us know what you think. Before we get to that, for us three, we have a breakdown of some of the game tape that Mikey and Greg went through earlier today. Again, we'll have the full video that they did, which is a great deep dive, great insight, and that will be live on the that will be on the Focus Hoops YouTube channel after the show today. So let's see what Mikey and Greg had to say earlier.
So, Greg, as we turn on the tape here, just talk to me a little bit about Kate Oliver. In this clip, it's 3 deflections and a block at the end. And just talk about the impact she has as an anchor of that Leicester defense, protecting the paint and the rim.
Yeah, she's a key part of what they do. It allows the guards up top to be super aggressive. They're playing up the floor 91 feet. She's involved in the ball screens as well. She's not sitting back, hiding. She's getting involved in every action here. So what that allows them to do is just cause that chaos at the point of attack, as we spoke about before. And it just causes a little bit of uncertainty for the other team, not knowing where the pressure is going to come from and what they're going to do on the next rotation.
Yeah, and it's these multiple efforts that have made the top defense. I mean, even that pass there, you can say it's a good shot, but really what Leicester trying to do is the better shot is another pass away. And actually, if Newcastle made that there, they probably Newcastle get a wide open look. But it's that intense defense, the shot clock starting to wind down, that really causes issues on the on that end of the floor. And really, you talk about a crop of guards, as we're going to see here, that they just know how to get their hands on the ball, and they've got so many players in the guard spot that can cause turnovers, cause deflections, and let their offense get out and run.
Yeah, what they're doing, I call it digging. They're digging for the ball, whereas some people swipe for the ball. You're inviting the referee in, and anytime you do that, you're likely to give up a call. But what Leicester do very well is they dig for the ball, and invariably, even just a deflection where they don't come up with possession is enough to interrupt the flow of the offense.
I just mentioned about Cardiff, but she's also instrumental in this Nottingham game, which was the Cup semi-final. Of course, Sevenoaks winning by just the 2 points.
Yeah, so if we hold the ball here, the way Nottingham want to play defense is that they want to pack the middle and really protect that. A little bit similar to what Leicester Riders do, but they're a more extreme version of it. And the fact of the matter is, with Renee Bush, you're late now. Now you're late to closing her out. Because as soon as this ball's on its way to her, you have to be there, because she's got a very quick release and she only needs to see a little bit of the rim. So if we run from here, we'll see just how quickly she's able to get this shot off and punish that one pass away help.
And again, it's transition threes, and talk with Jesper about this in the interview, that turnovers have been a problem for Leicester, and they turn it over. Renee's the one that can really fly to the 3-point line. And even in this clip, if we just roll it back a couple of seconds, you can see what the idea is here. Mo Lundqvist at some point recognizes Chelsea has got Lavinia De Silva in the paint. And really what she wants to do here is get back to Lavinia and kick Chelsea out. Problem is, the recognition just happens a second late. And you can see they're now both under the paint, and Renee's wide open, and that's the type of shot she's going to knock down easily.
Yeah, and again, in that situation, they were late on the release of the pass. She's made the court impossibly big for the defense there. Understandable that, you've got a guard and a big in the key in transition. You don't want that catch an easy layup. But again, there has to be better communication for someone to identify where the 3-point threat is, probably the biggest 3-point threat in the league at the minute, to be able to get that rotation quickly and to get there and make sure that she's not just killing you within 4 seconds of them getting the ball back.
Oh, well, there's a controversial statement if I've heard one. And actually, it's a topic for another day, but Renee Bush versus Cassie Bruin would certainly be an interesting discussion point about shooting. But yeah, no, but it was certainly interesting about Wolves. But let's just look back a little bit we've talked about Leicester Riders keeping the ball on the side. And the one thing you can't do with a shoot like Renee, and in this case, Chelsea Shumpert, is leave airspace. If you're going to play this type of defense, you need to be closer, because if not, you're in trouble.
Yeah, Hikin's about 5 feet away from Shumpert there. That's plenty of space at this level. And you just want to be careful that here in this situation, that's daylight. You're not even able to get a hand up to contest that. It's so quick. And that's going to be the same with Renee Bush. And on this one here coming up, same situation. You want to know what it is that the person you're guarding is going to do. That's the scouting report. And even as the game evolves, you have to do a mini scouting report in your own head. So we cannot lose track of who has the ball in their hands.
Okay, and we're back. So the full video of that, it's about 45 minutes, I think. Yeah. You can watch straight after we finished the show today. You'll be able to find it on the Focus Hoops YouTube channel, and some really good stuff from Mikey and Greg. Really interesting dive into the plays, what the teams are going to be looking for. Greg, what kind of stood out to you the most when you were looking at that tape?
Yeah, I think both teams are kind of married to their identities at this point. They are who they are. Leicester, as we've spoken about already on the show multiple times, their identity is tied into their defense, you know. And the reality is, honestly, over the course of the season, different circumstances, things happening, your offense will betray you at some time. You know, it will leave you high and dry. The one thing that you're always going to pack in your bag wherever you go is your defense, and they've decided that this is what we're going to do. Sevenoaks, they know that they've got a unique shooting talent in their midst, paired with two players who really threaten the paint when they're on the ball with Tiani Clark and Kat Carr. That puts Renee Bush in a very great situation to be an impact player for them without having the ball in her hands a lot. Even though she's able to make plays off the dribble, she's not having to do a ton of that. But as we saw with Jesper Sundberg before, they're not just looking for a spotting up. She's coming off screens. She's doing all sorts, and that really puts pressure on your defense to always know where she is, especially in transition. If Leicester turn that ball over, they might be giving up 3 instead of 2, and that's a heartbreaking situation, especially in the final.
Mikey, any thoughts on what you guys were looking at earlier?
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing that's, we touched the surface and how deep we could have gone with this. Me and Greg could have gone for a few hours because there's so many good clips out there. There's so much different nuances to this and how little twists that may or may not appear. But I think the thing that stood out as soon as I turned on the tape on Monday and started doing a deep dive was how hard Leicester defend. And the clip with Hannah, Rob and Greg will know which one I'm talking about, where she was just flying all around screens and doing everything. But getting a steal against Chelsea Shumpert was one of the best defensive possessions I've ever seen by someone in the WBBL. She just did everything they needed, got her angles right, and that was the thing I took away, was how hard Leicester defending. And Greg's right, like you'll hang your hat on defense. And I had a funny situation last year in the cup semi-final. I'm pretty sure I said to the team in the locker room at half-time, we hold them to under 60 in regulation, we'll win the game. And I knew offense. Now, I didn't think our offense would be that much of a struggle, but our offense was struggling. We found a way to grind it out, and we held them to 57. Okay, but that got us to overtime by doing that. And we've seen the final. I think the last final between these two sides ended 60-55. And if we see a similar score tomorrow, I would not be surprised. Both teams have the weapons where if everything clicks, they can score 80. But I think what Greg said about Renee really hits is before she was, you'd say sometimes the guard that wasn't the focus for a team's defense in a way. You'd always have Kat on the scouting report high up. Janice would always be there. Tiani would have to be on the scouting report for all the little things she does, the way she can post up the smaller guards. And sometimes it almost left Renee to be the odd person out in a way. And now you can't do that. Renee has to be number 1, number 2 on the scout now. And that's how much she's grown. And the fact she's doing all these little things is she can really hurt you. And you can see why Chemma's gone, yes, she deserves to be in his GB squad. And yes, she deserves to play. And that's where we're at.
And do you think that experience of playing with the GB squad is going to have only helped her with her game?
Of course. I mean, it's time where you get to pick the brains of people. So for Renee, getting to spend a little bit of time with Carly, looking what Carly does, another great shooter, you can just pull little snippets from that and add those to your own game and have those discussions and be in communication with the teammates. And I know the GB girls seem to talk a lot outside of their time at camp. So she's now in that circle where she can pick people's brains a little bit easier and keep learning. And I think Greg said it best. I think we talked about it on the show that she was one that you saw during lockdown. She would post almost daily videos of her working out in the backyard, working on form, working on reps, and it's paid off. And it's a good lesson for others to learn as well, that if you want to get better, you just need to put in the time. There's no shortcuts around it.
Yeah.
And you know, looking at the GB situation, sorry, Kaz, is
no.
She had a hard time leading the offense for GB when she was over there with them. And at this moment in time, that's maybe not, you know, high up in her skill set. But I'm looking forward to seeing her in a situation where she's able to play off the ball a little bit more, when they have a bit more of a guard rotation with your regulars back, your George Joneses, your Nicolette Formici, and the likes of them, where Renee gets to come in and play her same Sevenoaks Suns role, to see what kind of impact she has at the international level doing that.
Yeah, definitely. She was playing a very different role, wasn't she, in the last game against Belarus last week?
Yeah, so it's going to be, you know, a work in progress for GB, but I think going forward, she's definitely an underscore.
Okay, so any final thoughts on tomorrow's final before we go to predictions?
I think the one thing that the more I thought about it, and it'll kind of lead me to kind of tip my pick here a little bit, is tempo is going to be crucial. I don't think it can be a game played at a high tempo for all 40 minutes for Sevenoaks. I think the fact that they've not played, I think they're going to have to find ways to score in transition, but the game needs to be more of a half-court game, I think, for Sevenoaks, just because of where they are with probably total conditioning. And look, I guarantee Tiani and Catton have been keeping everyone in shape, doing everything they can, but Greg will tell you from a coaching point of view, there's nothing that can replicate game reps. And there's going to be a stage where Sevenoaks are tired and struggling, and if the game's up and down, that's going to come early in the game. So I think Sevenoaks need to be smart, need to use the shot clock, and I think they're a team that can do that, and that's how they win, rather than it being a really high tempo pressing type of game.
Greg, any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. I had one of my guys last season doing a lot of work. You know, he was running on the road, he was in the gym lifting, doing all sorts. So you'd have called him in shape for anybody else. But 5 minutes into preseason practice, he was wondering if we're on Earth or on Mars. You know, so you really have to be on the court to prepare to play. There's no other way, I'm afraid.
Yeah, we'll see how that works tomorrow. Right, so predictions. Greg, who's going to win? Who's going to be MVP?
I think, based on the fact that I truly believe it's going to be a close game, in this situation, I actually think a close game suits Sevenoaks Suns with their extra experience. But they just know how to play in finals. They know how to win finals. Which was the last final that they lost? I don't know. So that's going to be the key for me. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a close game, and that plays well into their hands. So Sevenoaks Suns, for me, I'm going to call it 4 points.
Who is that, sorry?
Sevenoaks 4.
Oh, okay. And Mikey?
I think, to answer your question, Greg, it was Betty Cardona / WBBL Trophy. I can't remember what it was called that year, 2018, during the Commonwealths. I think that's the last time Sevenoaks lost the final to Leicester, if my memory recalls. Prediction. I've been going back and forward all week on this. The more tape I've watched, little things have swayed my mind. I will say before I start, have a little guest pick. and Jasmine Joyner is going with Sevenoaks.
Oh,
she did say it was going to be she expected a really close game, really tough to pick. But I think she's kind of on the same lines with Greg. She feels like there's a spot where they've just been there so many times that if it's a close game, they might just find the way to win it at the end. As for me, I think it comes down to, I think Sevenoaks have just lost one too many pieces with Koppel and De Silva both missing. I think that's just going to be a little bit too much to overcome. I think I could see them slowing down Kate Oliver. But at the same time, I think Kate is a good enough pass and facilitator along with the other bigs that they will find enough good looks, whether it's from kickouts and redrives, spot up shooting to find a way to win the game. And I think being in an arena that is smaller will help the shooting. And we've always had this debate about finals that sometimes teams struggle to score in the bigger venues for whatever reason. But I think playing in a gym in Manchester that's, I wouldn't say it's shooting friendly gym because we've seen some low scoring games there in the past, but typically teams can score well at the National Basketball Performance Centre.
that's a very good point.
And I think that Leicester will have opportunities to make threes, and I think that will just about see them over the line. MVP, I think I'll go with Kate because I think she'll get to a stage where she'll get close to a triple-double in some form. I think I could quite easily see her only scoring 12 or 14, but I could see that coming with 5 or 6 assists from a double team type situation. And she's the person that's always going to pull down 9-10 rebounds, and that's just gonna let the efficiency fly up. And I think that'll kind of sit over the line because if it's close, they generally tend to edge towards efficiency in a final.
Okay, so
if we're looking for an MVP, and by the way, if we look at the men's final, you had Newcastle, you had London Lions, you had one super deep team, London Lions, and you had the super experienced team in Newcastle Eagles. I think this is a mirror situation with that. And as Mikey mentioned about the shooting at NBPC Bellevue, I don't know how many people have been to the Barclaycard Arena in Birmingham in person, but there's one end where teams shoot better than the other end, and that's where the curtain is. One end is super open, and the end has a curtain behind it, and the end that's open is almost like a cavern. You just do not know where the ball is going to land. So yeah, there's a lot of merit in that. But just looking at an MVP, the thing is with Leicester, they're good for a turnover, so that can hurt your efficiency in a big way during the course of a game. Sevenoaks don't really turn the ball over as much. I can't look beyond Kat Carr for the MVP if Sevenoaks do win like I expect them to do. As much as you're going to look at someone like Renee to have a big impact scoring the ball, Tiani leading the tempo, Kat's ability to rebound like a big sometimes will just give her that extra bonus in terms of impact during the game, I think.
Yeah. And we've seen Kat Carr in finals before. She knows what she's doing. So I am going to lean a little bit towards Mikey, and I'm going to go with Leicester just because of the shorter bench and that Leicester have had the more playing time. But again, I think it's going to be super close. I'm going to go 3 points. It's going to come down to the last few. It's going to come down to the last shot. That's what I want from a final. And I'm going to go with Holly for the MVP. So,
okay,
less
so
than
are
20...
they taking the last shot to win?
Yeah. The last shot's going to win it for Leicester.
And there's a little funny caveat to this that I've kind of learned over the years from doing stats at a final, being in a final, that actually they generally have to choose the MVP before the buzzer. They certainly when it was the final we were in 3 years ago now with the Nottingham Caledonia final, they were saying they had to pick the MVP for TV purposes and all that stuff with about 90 seconds to 2 minutes to go.
Okay.
It has been seen and
So-
done. Now, whether they've got the flexibility and because Sky aren't really necessarily running a direct highlight package of that player straight away after the MVP trophy, maybe that gives them more flexibility, but I have seen that done. So it's one of those funny things, and I'm not saying it won't happen, but just because someone sinks the game-winning three doesn't necessarily mean they're an MVP, which is quite a funny story, really. Not if it's a tie game and someone hits a buzzer beater and they've had and it's between 2 or 3 people and one of them hits it and they've already chosen someone else, it could be a little bit awkward. That nearly happened the year we played Caledonia, ironically. So that was a fun conversation I once had with someone about that.
Well, let's see. We'll be able to to work out when they've made the decision. Okay, so that's everything for tomorrow's cup final. You can watch it. So tip off is 5:30. There's a build up from 5 o'clock. Sky Sports YouTube, Sky Sports Arena, and Sky Sports Mix. Make sure to tune in. It's going to be a great game and a great advert for women's basketball in this country.
I don't think go to Sky Sports Mix. I think if you end up on Sky Sports Mix, you might be watching netball.
Okay, don't watch that one. Stick to Arena or YouTube.
Yeah. But I think the fact that it's going, and I think it's only we thought it was going to happen, but it's kind of been confirmed, and the link's out, and we'll get that on the Focus Hoop social media tonight. The fact that it is on the main Sky Sports YouTube page is big. It gets that extra chance to get an audience in, and obviously we've said around between us that the Sky coverage has been great with Nat, and obviously they're bringing in Rihanna and Siobhan, who know the game really well, have got experience against both teams, and I think that'll really add to the coverage tomorrow. And looking forward to watching that crew on the game.
Yeah, it'll be really good. And like we say, a great advert for the women's game. So just a quick roundup of the other WBBL games that we've got this weekend. So Saturday we've got Durham and Essex, Sevenoaks and Oaklands, and then Manchester and Nottingham. Manchester and Sevenoaks obviously back this weekend from the break that they took. Was it the start of this year, end of last year? They've not played since last year. And then Sunday we have Newcastle and Cardiff, and Nottingham and Caledonia. So, Greg, are there any of those games that stick out to you as a must-watch after the cup final on Friday?
I'm looking at Nottingham, Caledonia. I think Caledonia have shown some promising signs, especially with their young cohort. I think one of the breakout players of the season so far has been Polly Story, coming to the fore for Caledonia. And, we saw when Nottingham played Essex, if you're able to play them a certain way, again, I'm not going to expose how the sausage is made here, but if you're able to play Nottingham a certain way, you can have a little bit of success. So having had time to prepare, it will be interesting to see how Caledonia approach that and to see if Polly can carry on her hot streak.
Yeah. I will be at the Manchester Mystics game with Adam Masters from Brand 161. We'll be doing the commentary for that. And if you want to watch the Manchester Nottingham game on the live stream, it's on the Brand 161 YouTube channel. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Mystics back on court. Mikey, which game is your pick for the weekend after Friday?
Well, thank you, Greg, first of all, for plugging Caledonia Nottingham on Sunday, because I'll be up in Nottingham doing the call on that one. To be honest, there's a lot of interesting games. And I know we want to speed through, but how did Durham look now they've played a game and had a little bit more prep? Obviously, Essex have looked good in recent weeks, and you'd back Essex, but it'll be interesting to see if Durham have snuck someone else onto the roster. I wouldn't put it past them, because Lee likes leaving announcements to the last minute. So we'll probably find out tomorrow if they have. But I mean, I could see Oakland's beating Sevenoaks on Saturday. There is a scenario, and obviously we didn't touch upon it, but Barking beat Oakland's last night by 30. I think it was a 31-11 first quarter off memory. Cassie Breen looked great again. But realistically for Sevenoaks, and we've talked about the factors of being short bench, of not playing in a while, they're probably going to get back to Sevenoaks about 1 a.m. Game tips at 5:30. By the time you've done presentations afterwards, showered, done media, with Sky and stuff. They're probably not going to leave Manchester till 8:15. It's going to be a 4.5, I'd guess, hour drive back minimum, plus a stop. And they've got to turn around and play again at 1:30 on Saturday, early. It's not like a late game. So they're going to be home at 1:30 in the morning, having to play again at 1:30. And Oakland's are the team on their day. They play up tempo enough that if Sevenoaks are struggling, a final, never mind the physical effects, the final takes a lot out of you emotionally. Especially, let's say Sevenoaks lose on the buzzer. Your situation, Kaz. To come back from that's going to take a lot physically and emotionally out of you. And I expect Sevenoaks have got that quality to win. But short roster on Friday. Realistically, most of the big players are going to have to play 35 minutes plus tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if one or two play all 40. And then coming back on a short turnaround is the one where you just look at go, oh, this could be an upset. It's possible. And I think Cardiff will win in Newcastle.
Okay.
That's again Cardiff are the other team that have taken the break. So again, that could have an effect. But Cardiff last time out against Manchester, we kind of missed it because it kind of led right into Christmas, and I don't think we did a show afterwards. But Cardiff looked great against the Mystics. They took Manchester out of a lot of stuff. They've now added the dual passport player, the British Canadian, whose name I've forgotten off the top of my head, and I apologise. So I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, it's a long travel trip, but I wouldn't be surprised if Cardiff go up to Newcastle and win up there as well. But I'd imagine that's another close game. It could be a really good weekend for WBBL all around with a lot of close games.
Yeah, I think it will be, and kicking off with the final tomorrow, and then some games tomorrow at the weekend. Most games as well are on either the WBBL official YouTube channel or on the team's YouTube channels. Do a quick search on social media for the team, and they've usually put something out if it's not on the WBBL one. Chester Donnelly says, I don't have Sky Sports Arena, but it's on Sky Sports YouTube. So yeah, anyone that doesn't have Sky Sports can watch it on the Sky Sports YouTube, which is great for anyone that doesn't have it. Right. So is that everything for WBBL? Should we have a super quick roundup of the craziness that's gone on in the WNBA this last week?
Yeah, well, we weren't really planning to do anything about that till yesterday. I wonder why we're now talking about it.
So free agency seemed like all the big moves had happened a couple of weeks ago. Me and Darren talked about it. Candace Parker was gone. Chelsea Gray was gone. And then, about 24 hours ago, the WNBA just exploded with news. So I've got the breakdown here. I've got the
I lost track.
I'd like to say I could remember it in my head, but there's no chance of that. So we'll start with what happened first of all. So New York started things off. They traded Kia Nurse and Megan Walker to Phoenix for a 2021 pick, which was the number 6 pick in this year's draft, and a 2022 first round pick. Fair enough. That's okay. They then sent the 2022 first round pick that they got from Phoenix and the number 1 overall pick for this year to Seattle in exchange for Natasha Howard, who Seattle had called, and a 2022 second round pick. They then sent Stephanie Talbot to Seattle for Sammy Whitcomb. So New York come out of that with Natasha Howard, Sammy Whitcomb, the number 6 2021 draft pick. Seattle then sent their first round 2022 pick that they got from Phoenix via New York to Minnesota for Mikai Herbert-Harringen. And they then sent the number 1 overall pick that they got from New York to Dallas for Katie Lou Samuelson and a 2022 second round pick. So if you followed that, well done, because it's a mess. But essentially, Dallas now have the number 1 pick in this year's draft. They also have the number 2 pick in this year's draft. They have the number 5, 7, and 13 picks in this year's draft. Phoenix got Kia Nurse and Megan Walker, and Seattle got Katie Lou Samuelson, Mikai Herbert Harrigan, Stephanie Talbot, a 2022 second round pick, and another 2022 second round pick. Minnesota got a first round 2022 pick as well. What do we make of this madness? Who's won this trade, Greg?
The phone companies, basically. You want to look at the GM's phone bills and see what's going on there.
Hold on. Twitter's won the trade.
So I think this is Dallas kind of doubling down on a longer term policy. They could flip a couple of the picks, but I think they're looking to get younger and more long term with their roster. But in the short term, I think obviously Seattle got a little bit stronger. Phoenix, they've got a bit of a UConn connection going on there with Kia Nurse joining Dan Taurasi. So I don't think there's a loser in this trade. Traditionally, you want to pick on New York a little bit, but I couldn't do it this time. I think they got just as much out of it as anyone else without necessarily breaking the mold. But yeah, I'm very interested to see how Dallas evolve out of all of this really over the next 2 or 3 years.
So Dallas are doing a trust the process rebuild. They're not going to trade all those picks for one big player.
Well, I mean, they could flip a couple for a need that they have, but I think there's, you're picking back to back 1 and 2 in the draft. That's potentially your future locked up for 10 years. With what they already have with the likes of Arike Ogunbowale and Satu Sabali, you could be looking at Dallas Wings being a force in 2030. So that's kind of what I'm taking away from this.
Okay. And if you're Dallas, what are you picking in the draft? Are you looking at bigs? Are you looking at wings? Or are you just taking the best player available?
I think you've got the luxury, don't you, with that many picks? First pick got to be available. Second pick, you can go for a need. Or you can do it either or, whichever way around you want it. And then later on in the draft, as soon as teams figure out what the rest of the board is looking like, you can flip a pick for a need again and see where the chips fall in that situation. So I think, they've kind of got the league cornered a little bit for the next couple of years, looking at it properly.
Be interesting to see what they do. Mikey, who won this trade? What do you think?
I've got no clue. I mean, we break it down. It's a 5-team trade.
Yeah.
You might as well have just done one more trade and had half the WNBA all in one trade. Why not? If you're going to make it 5, let's make it 6 and make it half the league. I've been so busy with clips and stuff going on that I've not had a lot of time to process it in terms of what it means. But New York have now got the 2019 Defensive Player of the Year, the 2020 Most Improved Player of the Year on the roster from the offseason. So you would say, correct me if I'm wrong here, that they've basically gone to try and speed up the rebuilding process.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
As Greg seemed to have said, have gone the other way. They already had a young roster stacked with a bunch of rookies last year. What do they have? 4? 5?
Yeah.
They had
4.
I think 4.
They had 4.
New York has 7.
And now you're adding.
We're younger.
Yeah. And now you're potentially adding 5. I can't see Dallas being done. I can't see Dallas using all 5 picks. So how they flip it? Is there another big trade coming? Don't know.
Something else that's interesting about Dallas is that they've still got 12 players under contract. So whoever they draft, they're going to have to release someone from a contract in order to take on one of the players.
Yeah.
And don't estimate the money saving aspect of being able to do that as well.
Yeah. Dallas are going to have some cap room to mess about and do some things. Phoenix and Minnesota are a little bit more simple to understand. Phoenix have just added to a little bit of depth on the wing position, which I think they needed. It's something they were lacking in the wobble. And Minnesota haven't flipped a lot. Ultimately, you've sent your 2020 first round pick to Seattle. I could be wrong, but for a pick next year.
Yep.
But basically, you've just moved one player back 2 years in a first round pick for a first round pick. Now, obviously, Seattle are going to be up there, so you're going to be picking probably at the back end of the first round. But yeah. As for Seattle, I don't know. I want to say they're in win now mode, but they've also lost a lot. Like, you've lost one of your best backup guards, if not your best backup guard in Whitcomb. You've lost your starting small forward in Clark. You've lost one of your best overall 3-and-D players and someone that can put up in and around the 50, 40, 90 type of year, as Daz would like to say, in Howard, who's obviously 2 years ago was Defensive Player of the Year as well. That's a lot to give up for a team that's in a wanting to win now while you've still got the likes of Sue Bird on the roster. So I don't quite know. I think I need some time to figure out where the direction Seattle are going, because it feels like it's a win now move.
Yeah.
But it also feels like if you win now, why wouldn't you take the number 1 overall pick and add a rookie that's going to come in and most likely make an impact? And actually, having said all of that, the big loser is the 2021 WNBA draft class. Because I'm sorry, if you've got the number 1 overall pick flying around and up for grabs by multiple GMs, and clearly New York, I imagine other teams were probably interested in the pick and New York put it up. It didn't just materialize that the number 1 pick was available. That doesn't just happen quietly, I would imagine. You want to get the best value for that. And look, New York got great value in Howard for it. Clearly, the GMs and talent evaluators don't think it's a great draft class at the top.
That's what it seems to suggest, doesn't it? I've not been too much involved in the college scene this year. I don't know who's really up for eligible for the draft. So, but that's what it seems to suggest, doesn't it? I sort of, looking at the Seattle side of it, I sort of wonder if they've made the almost best out of a situation that they've kind of been forced into, because they cored Natasha Howard. Obviously, there's been a few rumblings there that she might be leaving, so they cored her. So even if she's traded, they can get something back for her. So if she'd made it known she wasn't going to play the next season, their hands kind of been forced a little bit. And with Alicia Clark leaving, her statements made it sound like she just wanted, she's won in Seattle, she's done what she wanted to do, and she was going to go. So if they can't keep those pieces, they've got to get some sort of return for them, which they kind of have done. I like the pickup of Katie Lou Samuelson. I think she'll fit really nicely into what Sammy Whitcomb did. And she's having a great EuroLeague season, and she maybe hasn't had as much chance and as many minutes in the WNBA due to injuries and just roster. And I think she fits well on Seattle. But like you say, it does look like a win now mode, but then also maybe with a little eye to the future. With even if Sue Bird retires, Brianna Stewart's still there, Jewel Lloyd. They don't, you don't just want to give up everything. You still want to have those young players to develop, and I think Seattle's a good place for young players to develop.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. Like Stewie, Lloyd, Samuelson is what the oldest of that is 27, 28 off the top of my head. Of that. And yeah, that's huge.
28, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, mid-20s. So yeah, for sure, you've got that. You've got that to build around. I suppose the question is Katie Lou Samuelson, the way she's been playing in the WNBA, if you take that as its own entity, worth the number 1 pick? And at that face value, it looks like Seattle are well overpaid, because Katie hasn't done great in the WNBA. She's done okay, but she's not looked like an elite player yet. However, if you do look at what she's done in the EuroLeague and what we've talked about,
and for TBUSA,
yeah, I wonder if some of these players and some of the GMs and coaches were around this USA mini camp. Mm-hmm. I wonder if that timing's got anything to do with it, having another look at Katie in person, because obviously they're not going to be flying out to Avienda and places this year to watch in person because of all the COVID restrictions. I wonder if that's had to do with it. But I will say, maybe the happiest person I've seen, and maybe obviously I've not spent a ton of time on social media with doing the interviews and stuff for the WBBL Cup final. is Carly Samuelson. She seems to love this trade. So
she does. I've seen those posts.
Stewie and Louie and all this stuff. Yeah, so clearly Katie's excited about it because I'm assuming they're together in Hacienda. They're probably living together. That's what logic at least dictates. So yeah, obviously Carly's got a very inside track and Katie's there. And when you've got a dominant inside player with Brianna who can obviously stretch the floor, you've got Megaball coming up as a young big that's going to be explosive on the inside and draw attention. You need those stretch fours that can stretch the floor, and Katie's someone that can fit that. So yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot to digest in 24 hours, really.
It is. And also Seattle, I think probably only a day earlier, picked up Candice Dupree and signed her. So
I forgot about that.
Because it seems like so long ago, but it probably wasn't. So that's another addition for Seattle outside the trade. And just before we came on here, Raquana Williams has signed with Vegas. So the Sparks have lost another player.
Yay. So I'm looking at it like the depth team in the WNBA right now is Vegas. You know, you look at Las Vegas and you're thinking that's probably going to be a good bet for your end of season champion. But there's no way you can bet against Seattle and be confident about it, because even whilst they're retooling, I think they're making the right moves. Nothing spectacular so far. I mean, Katie Lou's a hell of a player, doing well in the EuroLeague, which for me is a better league than the WNBA anyway. Fight me. But I think they're making all the right moves in what it is that they're going after at the minute. So I think you just have to keep them in mind.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm sure we'll get into this in a few weeks. But there's so many top tier teams, and there's so many teams that look really strong this season with some of the moves that they've made. We need some expansion. There's going to be so many players that don't get to make a roster here this season. We need some expansion. I need it to happen.
Are you looking at roster expansion or league expansion?
Both, but start with roster expansion, bump it up to 15, and then in a couple of years, team expansion. So you've got the players ready, you've got the pool ready, and everyone's ready, and then do an expansion draft.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Obviously, the Olympics are gonna be a factor this year as well in the league. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I just get the feeling, having this trade gone down, that a couple of teams are going to be looking and going, we need to make a move. And I wouldn't be surprised whether it may now not happen till draft night, but we've clearly been wrong before, that there's going to be a couple of teams making some big moves. There are still some free agents out there.
Amanda Zoe B sticks out to me as someone that's not been picked up yet, which I'm surprised at.
I mean, is Temi a free agent technically?
Yeah.
I've kind of lost track of her situation personally. Like I'm not quite sure where she's at, but again, I
think Minnesota have her rights, but she can do something.
Yeah, and obviously the way she looked for GB, it makes sense that she's back. But yeah, you kind of feel like, as I said, I think Dallas will make a trade. Sparks, casual say they have to do something. What that is, we'll see. Whether they're the type of will give something up now to go get a young rookie and almost rebuild, or are they going to try and contend? In which case, the problem is, I don't know. I think the Sparks are. We don't want to get into it tonight as such, but the Sparks are in an interesting place where they've almost not got enough assets to go make a big deal, but they need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the coach wants to have a word with the GM and find out what's going on over there. Just figure that one out. And the thing with Zoe B is, I think what people are waiting for in the WNBA, they're waiting to see what happens with the Brittany Griner situation before they make that move to fill the 5 spot if they do have a vacancy there. So there could be some more moving parts in that situation, and you could very well be looking at a sign and trade situation for someone signing Zhao B and flipping her for Griner if that's agreed to by both parties. So I think that's kind of what you're looking at in that situation.
That makes sense. Where would you like to see Zoe B, Greg?
Oh, Phoenix, of course. I'm greedy like that.
I like it. Okay, well, we'll wrap up there for today, as we've had quite a long show, and I'm sure we'll get into lots more WNBA discussion in a few weeks' time when everything's hopefully settled down a little bit, or maybe not. Maybe it's better if it's just all as crazy as it has been the last 24 hours. Mikey, any final thoughts?
No, just obviously best of luck to both teams tomorrow. Should be a great final, and I don't know if we've confirmed this, but I think the plan is we will probably do a post-game recap tomorrow. We talked about it last, didn't really get any further, did we? But yeah, keep an eye on that stuff, and obviously these videos are going to, in fact, what we'll do a little Focus Hoops special, and I will hit the go live button, the Coach's Corner episode. Let's do that as we are. There we go. It's now up. So obviously just keep an eye on the YouTube page, and social media. We'll get all the links out as we get everything up ahead of the game tomorrow.
Greg, anything from you?
Yeah. Tune in tomorrow, WBBL Cup final. Tell your friends to tune in. Tell them to tell their friends to tune in. Get your dogs in the room, your cats, everybody, whoever get eyeballs on the game. You won't regret it. By the time the game's over, you're going to be full on the phone, in your WhatsApp groups, Signal, whatever it is that you use these days, you're going to be talking about it.
Absolutely, yeah. And so 5 o'clock, the build-up starts, 5:30 tip-off, Sky Sports Arena, Sky Sports YouTube. Watch it however you can. So thanks to everyone for watching. Make sure to keep an eye out on the Focus YouTube for all the videos and all the content that we've got. We're here every Thursday on the Kaz and Daz show.
No, you're here every Thursday. This part-timer who looks like he's now on a bus, bless his soul, may be back next Thursday. He might decide to make an appearance. You never know.
He might be on a boat, a bike next week. What public transport is Darren going to be on? But we are here every Thursday talking women's basketball, WNBA, WNBL, WBBL. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, drop us a message on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, let us know what you think. Darren, just before we go, how are you doing?
All is well. Yeah, loving it. I'm now on a bus on my own, which is great fun. And
you're not fun without your dog. I don't want to see you without your dog. Next time you try and come on without your dog, I'm hacking you.
Now, me and Bronny will be sat there watching the game tomorrow, and then live post game for the Focus Hoops WBBL Cup final breakdown with Mike Hansen-Morris.
The Michael Hansen-Morris report.
Dragon Popo and Kaz, the Michael Hansen-Morris report, Kaz's Corner, and the Mompufu moment. They're all coming to Focus Hoops, whether they know it or not. Don't you worry about that. You take care of yourselves out there. Keep safe and make sure that you follow women's basketball. Tomorrow is the big one. It doesn't get any bigger than this. WBBL Cup final. You know. You got
to have your people call my people.
Yeah, we'll call them Monday. Don't you worry.
Okay, so thanks to everyone for watching. Thanks to all the players, coaches, everyone that's been involved with all the interviews. And we will see you next week. Well, tomorrow and then next week. And I'll remember how to end this.